I got a wrestling dad. I'm going to keep his name out of the story. I don't know that the name is relevant, but didn't have a wrestler. Name is Raiden. Goes 135 pounds the right way, entered a big tournament called Super 32. He was top 5 or 6 guy. Means he's top 5, 6 guy in the whole country. He's a kid, though. 15. All right. Wrestling dad is curious about going to Takedown. Very polite, not challenging, used to wrestle himself. That's been 20 or 25 years ago, whatever the number is. Weighs about 240 now, hasn't been on Wrestlite, probably could not find a pair of wrestling shoes. You know the type. I'm describing basically everybody that ever used to wrestle, but at some point, you don't even know where your gear is. But in your mind, right in your mind, you're still back in high school. So Wrestling Dad had just made a comment, and he thinks one takedown for the championship of the world, that he could get the takedown over Raiden. But the reason for the confidence isn't arrogance. Like the dad wasn't saying, hey, I was better than him even at one point. The dad just going, I'm big and I used to wrestle and I think I could protect myself from a takedown in a confined period of which we'll call 2 minutes. All right, just store that away. My favorite story. My favorite professional wrestling story ever. You can find it. It's called I Am From Hollywood, but I don't encourage you to read the book written by Andy Kaufman. I encourage you to go to YouTube and just listen to somebody tell you the story of the book. But Andy Kaufman is a comedian, and Andy Kaufman has never had a wrestling match. Not only not a professional wrestling match, he had never had any level of wrestling match. I don't even know if he had a sports background. I don't know of a baseball team or a hockey team or a football team that he was part of. But he gets himself into a main event in Memphis, Tennessee, one of the biggest shows in the world, one of the only competitors at that time to the WWF, what you now know as WWE. And there was only a couple of territories that had television distribution. Memphis was one of those territories. So you could sell out an arena. In fact, Andy Kaufman did. He sold it out to take on Jerry the King Lawler. Now, Jerry Lawler owned the promotion. He was the king of Memphis. He actually owned the promotion. He's the guy that went down and rented the building and sold 12,000 seats to watch him wrestle a comedian who had never done it before, but there was a stipulation. There was a stipulation set forth by Andy Kaufman. Now, Andy acknowledged, I haven't done this before. You were the king of Memphis. I'm coming to you. I'm a comedian. You're an athlete. So to level the playing field, I get one move of my choice, whatever that might be. That's how we start the match. You may not touch me until you allow me to do the move of my choice to you first. Basically, I get the first punch. You get it? Okay. Now, at that time in wrestling, it was universally known if you got a pile driver, the match was over. You've heard of finishing techniques, right? The Rock and the People's Elbow or the Hulkster and the big leg drop. Goldberg and the Spear. Stone Cold and the Stunner, they're finishing hold, but it was universally known at that time, if anybody, anywhere on the card, for any reason, ever landed a pile driver, that technique was too devastating for anybody to get out of. It wouldn't matter if that was your finishing move. That match was a wrap. This was very well known. So it was speculated that perhaps Jerry Lawler was going to have to allow Andy Kaufman to give him a pile driver, which, by the way, was one of Jerry Lawler's big finishing moves. And so it was a good guess. A low blow, right? A good old-fashioned shot to the nuts. And don't forget, roughly 1978 when this match happened, Vince McMahon didn't stand trial until 1989. It was not until 1989 that Vince McMahon was asked under oath, is wrestling real? Meaning, is it a cooperation or is it a competition? The world believed this was a competition. 36 different states had athletic commissions, the same as you see through MMA where the commission comes in and sanctions these things. 36 different states had a commission working on the dollar of the taxpayer, signed off by the legislature and the Senate, and signed into law by the governor because they thought it was real. So a low blow would have been a very good guess for a technique that he's going to do. You're bigger than me. You're better than me. I'm going to kick you in the nuts, right? Works every time. Could have made him lay down. Could have come off the top rope, Macho Man style, give him a big elbow. When the match starts, Jerry Lawler gets into the ring. Now, don't forget, they've sold 12,000 seats. 12,000 people have come out to watch this match, and the only thing that makes it at all curious is what is his first move going to be? And what do you think Jerry Lawler had to allow Andy Kaufman to do? Andy Kaufman's hold of choice was a standing side headlock. Now, if any of you have an older brother, you've been given a noogie. And if any of you have ever been given a noogie, you were first put in a standing side headlock. He come here, and then he rubs his knuckles in your hair and it would drive you crazy. That's a standing side headlock. There is nothing about that position that would ever finish a match, let alone lead to the finish of a match, let alone even be useful within a match. Why do I bring it to you? Because Wrestling Dad, who believes he can fend off Raiden for 2 minutes, possesses something. He possesses a weapon. This weapon has been revealed to the wrestling world. Wrestling Dad has a sprawl. He believes he can fend off a 16-year-old top 10 guy in the country for up to 2 minutes because he has a sprawl. Now, let me stop you right there. A sprawl, by definition, would be very simply where you're going to jump and you're going to drop down, in this case, to the mat, and then you're going to return to your feet. And technically, you wouldn't even have to return to the feet. You would just have to get your toes, knees, and dick on the mat at the same time. If you successfully did that in one motion, you would technically have sprawled. But let's not go quite so technical. Let's be a little bit more realistic, okay? To sprawl, you're going to have to be in a stance. You can't sprawl from here. You got to be in a wrestling stance. Now, this go is up to 2 minutes. So just to humor me, please get into your stance for 2 minutes. Now, if you are wrestling, your feet are going to be moving. And I don't mean you're going to have to move like an athlete. I don't mean you're going to have to be doing a chop step. You could be plodding like a Clydesdale, but your feet are going to be in constant motion. So let's set the clock. Let's get 2 minutes. Let's bend the knees into a stance and let's move our feet for 2 minutes. Not with an opponent. Not while being under attack. Not with a guy pushing and pulling and hanging on you. Not with your kid and wife and Chael and Ryan watching. Let's just do that by ourselves. Let's bend our knees. Let's move our feet and let's maintain that position for 2 minutes. Now, at some point in that 2 minutes, somebody's going to yell, sprawl, at which point you jump backwards, your toes, knees, and touch the mat. You then immediately will circular motion return to that stance where you must have your knees bent and still be moving your feet. And all you have to do this for is 2 minutes. That's it. If this athlete chooses to attack you, you might have to sprawl twice, or 3 times, or 4 times, or 5 times. But I must admit, when I found out this secret weapon, the solution to the problem was a sprawl. It did remind me of Andy Kaufman and his famous standing side headlock.